What have you learnt about technologies from the process of constructing this product? I used Photoshop to edit my photos. I used Adobe Illustrator to create shapes using my main task. I used InDesign to create my main and preliminary task front cover, contents page and double page spread. Prezi was used to make presentations for things such as my treatment and evaluation. I used SurveyMonkey to create a feedback questionnaire that my classmates could fill in to give me feedback. Movie Maker let me make videos from images and narration. I used Movie Maker to annotate real student magazines and make this video. WordPress is where I created my blog. YouTube let me upload my videos and embed them into my blog. I used my laptop to create movie makers at home. I took most of my photos using an SLR camera, so they were professional and high quality. My smartphone was used to take quick photos of models around college. Because my phone has a good quality camera, they still look professional. College computers are where I use Photoshop and InDesign to create my preliminary and main task. Pod let me steady my camera so my images were not blurry and looked more professional. Memory Stick let me back up my work and also transport files to and from college. At the start of the course, I didn't even know what InDesign was, and I had never used Photoshop. I began the course complete beginner. It put me at a disadvantage to other experienced students, but I believe that I have worked hard to get to the stage I am at now. By the end of the preliminary task, I do not feel that my Photoshop skills had dramatically improved because I had not needed to use it. I used all my photos as they were. However, my InDesign skills had increased because I had never used it before. Nearly everything I have learned about InDesign through the whole of the course I learned during the preliminary task. For example, I knew how to add text and edit it and place images and manipulate them. By the end of the preliminary task, I learned the basics of shortcuts on my keyboard in software such as InDesign. I learned how to resize an image without stretching it. To do this, you double-click the image so that the border goes orange. Then while holding down the Shift button, drag the corners and the image will get bigger or smaller, but won't change in any other way. During the main task, I decided to use Photoshop a lot more. I watched online tutorials and asked for help from other students around me. Using Photoshop allowed me to explore tools that would help me create professional photography. For example, using the lasso tool, I could remove backgrounds. I could also use the black and white filter to create edgy photos that fitted with my rock theme. I used Photoshop to brighten my images that may have been too dark before. Finally, I used Photoshop to remove some text that was on one of my model's t-shirts. In terms of InDesign, I now took advantage of the column feature more than I had in the preliminary task. Using the columns made my work look. By the end of the main task, I had learnt to use my keyboard more effectively. I learnt shortcuts for undoing actions, which is Ctrl-Z. I learnt how to zoom in and out by pressing Ctrl and using the plus and minus buttons. During the final stages of my main task constructions, I used Adobe Illustrator to create the splashes found on my double page spread. Using this software allowed me to further develop my work and improve it. Using Photoshop meant that my images looked more professional and allowed me to improve my poorer photos in terms of brightness or colour. Photoshop gave me the editing features that InDesign didn't. As I had such little experience with using Photoshop, I found it was complicated at times to use. This slowed me down and meant that some of my work still didn't look as professional as other students. InDesign creates columns which help me fit my text into the right places and made it look like it does in real music magazines. InDesign also let me navigate through my pages easily. InDesign has two view modes that let you see your work with and without the grids. To do this, simply press the W on the keyboard. This feature let me make sure that my text and pictures fitted in my desired columns, and then I could see the finished product. I found that the only downside of using InDesign is that I could not edit my photos using it, therefore I had to use Photoshop, which took more time.